feel like you don't have enough time to read all the things you want to or should read? Well, we might be able to help with that, at least a little bit. This is That Book Podcast. I'm Julianne.
And I'm Andrew, and every week we're going to be going through the books that we've been reading in the past week, as well as go through a recap of a book that we've already finished.
Yeah, but don't expect a book report. We're not here for that. Just expect to learn some opinions, a few facts along the way, and laugh a little bit.
Yeah, so let's get into those books. Hey there, and welcome to the very first episode of That Book Podcast.
Yes!
Yes, it's finally here. We made it. I'm Andrew.
I'm Julianne, and we're actually from the future right now, because when we recorded this episode, we didn't know what we were going to call the podcast. So this is going to be a wild ride. We have no idea what we're doing, but we're having a really fun time talking about books.
Yeah, we have a lot of books for you today that we're going to talk about, just some of the highlights that we've seen as we're going through them. And then we also have a really fun slideshow that Julianne put together about Atomic Habits, a book that she's finished, so she can kind of give a little fun book report. It's not a book report that you gave in school.
Oh, absolutely not. That sounds boring.
It's very boring. That's very boring. This is not. We got really fun pie charts. We got some shenanigans that accidentally got put in there by yours truly. So it's going to be a fun ride. We hope that you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed filming it and recording it and bringing it to you. So let's jump in.
Welcome to the podcast. Andrew, why don't you get started by telling us some of what you've read this week?
All right, sounds great. So the first book that I read this week, I read a number of books. I've been book hopping a little bit more than I usually like to. It's a new habit. I don't know if it's a good one. But the first book I read this week was Think Again. And I'm only through the prologue in the first chapter so far, so not a super long way. But it's really, really good. Adam Grant has a whole bunch of books that sell really well. He's a psychologist, and he knows his stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he's really cool. He's got some TED Talks.
I'd like to clarify that I knew he knew his stuff. I didn't know he was a psychologist.
I figured that's what you meant.
I'd like to go on the record as saying that.
And this book is about reevaluating everything that you think to avoid pitfalls in your and blind spots in your thinking. So there's already some gold in here, just from the little bit that I've read so far. So like in the prologue, he talks about testing and changing answers. So I don't know about you, but I was always told that when you're taking a test and you have a gut instinct and you're like, oh, I think it might be this one, boom, don't change your answer.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that's wrong. So I'm feeling lied to right off the bat. Like at this, I feel like I've been lied to my whole life. I'm already fired up. Like this match, that's on fire. That feels like me right now.
That's not on fire. It's
this
on
match
water.
that's on water.
Is that how you say that?
I don't know. I've never seen a match on water before.
Me either. If people are only listening to the audio, like I hope they Googled the cover right now.
Oh yeah, that's a good clarification. We are filming this, so if you are listening to it, you can watch it on YouTube and see our crazy visual shenanigans.
Or you can just Google "Think Again" by Adam Grant, and it should come up.
Yeah, but we're definitely gonna have more visual shenanigans than this. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you even have a slideshow.
I
later,
do. Well, I'm gonna read it though. It'll be fine. I will describe it in too much detail. Probably.
A little foreshadowing. I'm excited. All right, so Think Again. A lot of good stuff already. Testing and changing answers was just mind-blowing because apparently when you go back to reevaluate your answers, they're actually better when you change them. But the crazy thing is, I got this quote because it blew my mind. It's not so much changing your answer that improves your score as considering whether you should change it. So the act of simply opening your mind to reevaluation makes you more successful, like makes the test answers better. Interesting. Yeah. It's not like that you changed it, so don't be like, oh, I should change all my answers. But the fact that you go back and you're like, ooh, is this the right one? Is what makes you like more successful. Isn't that crazy? That's mind blowing. So that's kind of like the groundwork for this is like just getting your mind open to reevaluating, changing your opinions.
Okay, so I do feel a little less lied to then, because I feel like I had heard the like don't change your answer advice, but I had also heard like if you're not sure, mark it and come back, and then if you're still not sure, don't change it.
Ooh, okay, fair enough.
But if you like look at it and you go, well, obviously that's wrong now that I've like kind of gotten warmed up and the nerves are out of my system, then change it.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel a little less lied to.
Okay,
I feel like that's kind of a gray, like,
well, are you ready
area,
for more lies?
I'm less outraged.
Well,
yes.
okay. So
I need more drama.
You know the frog thing? Where if you put a frog in boiling water, it'll jump out. But if you put it in warm water and you slowly boil it, you can boil it alive. It won't jump out.
I hate that analogy.
It's weird, but you've heard that a bunch, right?
Yeah.
It's not true.
What?
Yeah. Frogs, as soon as it becomes an uncomfortable temperature, they jump out. But if you put them in boiling water, they might get too burned to be able to jump out. So it's like actually the complete opposite.
Well, who is doing the test on these frogs?
Well, I don't know. Who just made that up? That's what I want to know.
I'm going to be so much more upset next time someone uses that analogy, like in a talk. I'm going to be like, first of all, that is gross, and second of all, it is not true.
It is not true. Adam Grant,
get out of here.
Psychologist who's got all the research behind him.
I'll throw this book at them.
Yes. Probably don't do that. So there's another quote in the prologue that I really liked, and it was, "We laugh at people who still use Windows 95, yet still cling to opinions that we formed in 1995. In that, he was talking about how, like, when we are living our life, we want the next new technology. It's kind of this, like, bucket of evolution. It just seems natural, and we make fun of people who aren't with the times. But we do not reevaluate our opinions to adapt to new information that we've heard or learned, and so I thought that was really, really interesting. And then in chapter 1, he talks about the 3 kind of mindsets that we tend to go into when faced with various like situations. So he talks about the quote in chapter 1: "As we think and talk, we often slip into the mindsets of 3 different professions: preachers, prosecutors, and politicians." So we either are preaching how right our belief is to people,
okay,
or we get told, right, we learn about somebody's false opinion, or at least false in our minds, so we just go after them. Where it's like, how could you say that? Objection, like, that is false, that is totally wrong. Yeah. Or we kind of like try to convince them, we like politic them into thinking our way.
Kind of sneaky, like.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are kind of 3 mindsets. None of those help us evaluate whether or not our opinion is actually correct. Like whether or not we're being accurate or factual or truthful in what we think. Those are just like, hey, this is what I think, boom, putting it onto you, rather than like evaluating whether or not it's true. So he says we should also add a scientist into the mix as much as possible. And like the difference in those kind of mindsets is we have humility. We start with humility or we start with pride. And so when we're doing the preaching or the prosecuting or the politicking, we start with pride, and it just leads into a cycle of getting more and more, digging our heels more and more into our own opinions. But if we start with humility, then we go from humility to doubt to curiosity. And then we discover through that curiosity. He's got a cool little graph that has like a cycle of awesome learning and humility, and he calls that the rethinking. Cycle, reevaluating cycle, yeah.
So is this is a little off topic, but is this why The Scientist by Coldplay was like going through your head a little bit ago?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I just randomly think about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Coldplay, you get some random Coldplay jams in your head, you know?
Well, because you said we should add the scientist into the mix as much as possible, and I just start hearing some of those chords in my mind.
Nope.
Okay.
I don't think I've sung that song since I picked up the book.
Wow.
But maybe I did, and I didn't even know about it because it was the correlation was so strong.
That's impressive.
Okay.
You are going to town on this. I'm impressed.
Yeah, this book is really cool, and like I like thinking about things, and I don't really like being told that my opinions are done.
I don't think anyone does.
Right. So it's a little bit convicting, but that also fires me up a little bit more. Puts me like a match in water, I guess.
That is still somehow ignited.
Yeah. So there was some other like things that he was talking about in chapter 1. He talked about BlackBerry. You know, a lot of people talk about how BlackBerry like was owning the market and then just was gone.
Oh, they do?
Well, I've heard that once before or twice. I don't know.
Okay.
It was in a different book that's not this one. But he goes into he goes into like the guy was a genius throughout his whole life. Like he was a protege.
Mm-hmm.
Makes BlackBerry. It has like 50% of the market in phones. iPhone comes out with a touchscreen. BlackBerry didn't have a touchscreen. They had the keypad, which I still love, by the way. Hopefully they'll bring it back. He said that there's patents to like try to like make a hybrid. So I'm excited about that. Off topic. Yeah, he says that the founder of BlackBerry was faced with all of these innovations that were coming out, and he's like, people don't want those things, they want what I've already made. Like, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And like all of his employees were saying, hey, no, we should innovate. Like, here's a new idea. Somebody basically had the idea for WhatsApp before WhatsApp was invented, and like is now worth $19 billion. So he kind of dropped the ball on that one because he wasn't willing to reevaluate what was going on in the market, what people would actually want, and instead it was just like, oh no, what I have, people will always want.
Yeah.
So I thought that one was really interesting. And then also, the better you are at recognizing patterns, the worse you are at reevaluating what you believe.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So smart people are actually dumber in that sense, which is, I guess, kind of cool because that kind of puts everybody on an equal playing field, if you think about it. But also, like those times that I feel like I did a really good job identifying a pattern, it probably means that I should check myself, because maybe I'm really wrong, because maybe I've fallen into a stereotype instead of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
So rethink and do it with humility rather than pride. That's what I've learned so far. I don't think any of the other ones will be quite so long. That one is the one that's
this one is in depth. And I do want to say something because I feel like we've made a couple of jokes at the expense of this cover. Let's pull it back up so the people who are watching the video can see it. And I will say that as much as we're joking about this, I have spent way too long staring at this picture on the
very
binding,
fascinating.
like trying to figure out. It's just very fascinating. So it's a good cover.
It's a good cover.
It's a little hard to explain, but it's a great cover.
Yeah, I didn't even connect that it was water. I thought it was
just blue flame.
Blue flame.
I'm pretty sure it's water.
Maybe not.
I've spent too much of my life looking at this.
It would make sense because he does talk about firefighters and like, so it being water to put out the fire is probably.
Well, and I think it's just like, it's think again, think, kind of reassess what you're thinking. Because you see a match and you immediately think flame, and then it's like, whoa, wait, that's water. Yep. But this kind of looks like flame, so it's...
And did you notice that I recognized the pattern of a match being lit on fire and totally did not think about it being water because I just fell into the pattern? And you were over here like, wait a second, it's actually water, not fire. And so you did a better job with...
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Because like I was recognizing the pattern of like...
there's little water droplets there.
The cover usually goes with the title.
Yep.
So.
Okay. Thank you for making me feel better, even though like there was no need to. I recognize what I've done. But do you want me to do my next book, or do you want to?
I'll do one because I have 3 books. You have 4, so that should even it out a little bit. So this is the book I've been reading the most this week. It is called "I Will Teach You to Be Rich." By
it's a good book.
Ramit Sethi. Is that how he says his name?
I think it is, yeah.
We listened to his podcast. I should know how he says it, but every time that he says his name, he's like, and I'm Ramit Sethi. And I always just like, my mind just like, whoop.
And he doesn't kind of like a late night DJ talk show voice when he's saying that. Yeah. He's like being all cool and stuff.
And so my mind is just like, I need to listen. I need to figure out how he says his last name. And then it still is confused. So anyway... I think that's what his last name is, if I butchered it.
Sorry, Ramit.
Sorry. Yeah. Not like he's ever going to listen to it.
We love your book, though.
I just like getting people's names right. Okay, so this book is basically, he's designed it to be like a 6-week program to help you get on track with your finances, overhaul your finances. I don't really know how to describe it. He just says just a 6-week program that works, which is good. I guess. So one of the things I'm reading this book, Andrew's already read it and implemented it.
At least mostly.
In our finances. So
I just read it last week, so you are very quickly catching up.
Yeah, I didn't really need to read it. I just wanted to be on the same page and, know what he's talking about when we're talking about our finances. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to read it. And once I started, I wasn't sure how quickly I was going to go through it, but it's a little bit addicting because the writing style is so entertaining, and he has so many like good examples and funny jokes when you're like not expecting it, because it's, you know, he's talking about serious money stuff and then he like throws in a joke. So it's been my entertainment really for this week. Reading about personal finance, which is interesting to think about, kind of unexpected. We also like listen to his podcast, and I'm on his email list and stuff, so it's not like all these things are new, I guess. Mm-hmm. You know, you've heard bits and pieces of it, but it's really nice to have it like all laid out in a cohesive way, and obviously there's things that you haven't heard before that are in here. One of the things that I had heard before that still reading this book kind of made me think about in a different way is the conscious spending plan. That's what he calls it.
Yeah, his not budget.
Right, his not budget. That's a great way to phrase it.
For people that are like, what's a conscious spending plan? It's a not budget.
Yeah, it's a not budget. It's set up so that you don't have to like worry about your money on a day-to-day basis. You do need to check up on it every once in a while, but he says that should take, you know, I don't remember what the numbers are. I think some places he says 5 minutes, sometimes he says a half hour, like that kind of thing. But it shouldn't be all consuming. Mm-hmm. But you should still be spending within your means and saving. Mm-hmm. So all of that to say, one of the big principles that he always talks about with his conscious spending plan is that it should enable you to spend extravagantly on the things that you love, while cutting costs mercilessly on the things that you don't. And I got those adjectives pretty right. Like I am 95% sure that I nailed like exactly how he says that, because I've heard it so many times and because it's in this book so many times. And still reading through, I was like, you know, maybe we should cut costs mercilessly on the things that don't matter.
And I was like, wait, are you sure? Can we do that? I just read the book.
I was like, maybe we should do that. Maybe that would free up some like money for things that do matter. Like maybe we should reconsider our priorities. So that's been my main takeaway from this, even though it's something he says all the time. It's been great. I'm looking forward to finishing it. So I think I'm about halfway done with this one. The others that I've done, I'm near the beginning, I think. Maybe not.
Yeah, you've been reading that, so it's just so fun to read. Like, you wouldn't think a money book would be enjoyable, but...
No, but it is.
Yeah. And it feels kind of magazine-y.
It feels a little like a
magazine. It's in color.
It feels like light reading, particularly for me because you've already done the work, right? Like, I think if I had to go through and do the work, it would feel like light reading until, like, the very last page of each chapter where he's like, all right, this week, spend an hour doing this and spend an hour doing this. And then I'd be like, oh, man, now I've got to get to work. But since it's already done, I just kind of read through it and go like, oh, yeah, I know we have that because Andrew's talked about it or whatever.
Nice. Yeah, and I will say the conversations that we've already had, especially like around, you know, cutting costs mercilessly so we can spend extravagantly on the things that we love, like have been really helpful, and it's brought really nice cohesion to our like conversations. You know, we're not stressed when we talk about money. We're just like, like what should we do? And we're approaching it more like scientists than we are like trying to convince each other of what the right thing to do is.
Right.
Which is really cool. We even just bought his Rich Life journal. So.
Oh yeah, it's right behind you. I don't think you should reach around and grab it because that would be too creaky. For anybody who's listening. Yeah, our floor's a little creaky.
But we will.
But.
Yeah, we'll give updates on that too.
Yeah, and I was gonna say something else if that's okay.
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say like just like for. This is probably too much information, but Andrew, I feel like, you know, you handle like 90% of our finances, right? So,
I just like looking at the numbers.
Right. You like looking at the numbers. You like managing it. You do a really good job of keeping me up to date. So I just wanted to read it so that we had a lot more common language to use when talking about it. And that has been very successful.
Yeah, it's already been.
And it's been quite enjoyable process for me. So.
Yeah. So, do recommend. All right, my turn?
Yeah.
All right, my next book is called The Rise, Kobe Bryant and the Pursuit of Immortality. And so when you think about that, well, first off, Julianne, we were going shopping.
I'm very proud of how we got this book.
Yeah, and pretty much anytime there's a clearance sale anywhere, like anytime Julianne sees the word clearance, she's like, I need to go over there. Whether or not she actually really likes anything in the store, it's just like, I need to see this.
One time I got my dad some like $10 coffee that was $1 doing that. Did he like it? No, it was not that great. But I felt very victorious getting that kind of deal.
Yep, fair enough. And
it might have actually been 10 cents. I don't remember.
10 cents?
It was really, whatever it was really cheap.
That's amazing.
Okay, go ahead.
This side note has been brought to you by the clearance section in all stores.
Yes.
So anyway, we found this. It's got a little rip in the cover, which is unfortunate, but it was like 70% off, so I was like, cool. And it's about Kobe. My middle name is Kobe. A little fun factoid for you. It's pretty cool. I thought it was going to be like a life biography of Kobe, and it kind of is, but it really focuses on his high school years. So that's
cool.
good. It starts with everybody being really, really sad about his death. So the first chapter was, I was like pretty much crying on the verge of tears the whole time, but it's been a little bit easier, a little bit nicer, more like, oh yeah, cool, historical stuff since then. So it's also, so far, it's really cool to see, like, his dad made some mistakes. His dad was in the NBA for a little bit. Kobe Bryant, if you don't know, NBA player, one of the greatest to ever play the game, really awesome, was a Laker. I'm a Lakers fan, so like love Kobe. And it's really cool to see, like, he outlined some of the in the book, he outlined some of the mistakes that his dad made, specifically off the court. Like, he was just kind of irresponsible in life as a young 20-something, which makes sense. And it kind of cost him in his NBA career. And Kobe was kind of like the opposite of that. I think he probably heard stories about it and was growing up with that. Like, his dad was still an NBA talent, played professional basketball in Europe while Kobe was growing up. But it was really cool to see, like, he took all of the experiences that he had, and he took all of the good things from them and merged them together. And he was really, really rough around the edges. I got another book about the Lakers' three-peat championship that, man, there's a lot of Lakers. Hopefully I can make it a little bit interesting for those of you who don't care about basketball. But
me. Actually, I like this stuff. I like the stories.
Yeah. Because it's not like you're watching the game. You're like hearing about, like, the highlights of their lives and the good versus bad. I mean, the team Kobe's on versus the teams that he's not on. All that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's really cool so far. I haven't gotten super far in, but I'm liking that. So
okay. That
was much shorter than Think Again. So
it was.
Yes.
Yeah. You may have to think again about how you covered that. No, that's fine. I'm gonna do my next book, and it is an atlas of extinct countries by Gideon and Defoe. I had never heard of this book. We went to a bookstore on a little side trip we made.
We went to the ice festival in Holland, Michigan.
Yes, we did. And we found a bookstore, and I walked in, and they had a beautiful array of books laid out.
It was really nice.
On this table, like, right when you walked in, and this one was near the front, and I was drawn to it because it's a map, and the cover sounded interesting, and the cover is beautiful, and I read the description, and it was hilarious, which I'm going to read in a minute, so no worries. Everyone will get to hear it. But then I just was like, I can't leave this book here. I've never heard of it. I've never seen it before. The library probably has it, but I really want to read it, so I got it. So the book is about countries that have ceased to exist, or to quote the back, countries die. Sometimes it's murder. Sometimes it's by accident. And sometimes it's because they were so ludicrous that they didn't deserve to exist in the first place.
Oh, no.
This is an atlas of 48 nations that fell off the map. Their causes of death range from the implausible, jerky prices, to the unfortunate, too evil, to the downright bizarre, the flip of a coin.
Wow.
The polite way of writing an obituary is dwell on the good bits, gloss over the embarrassing stuff. This book refuses to do so, because these dead nations are so ridiculous that it's impossible to skip the embarrassing stuff. So this has been very fun. I'm a few countries in to the atlas, but yeah. I definitely have a lot further to go. I've been kind of trying to keep this one to weekends, so... so
you don't go through it too fast?
Kind of. And also, just because this is very enjoyable, and so I do want to make it last a little bit longer.
Yeah,
I guess it's the same thing.
You've already read like 4 passages to me because you find them so funny.
Yeah, I do. It's great.
And you've looked up Google Maps to see like where these countries were and are and.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I want all the details.
All the juicy drama details.
Exactly. So one of my favorite parts so far, speaking of the details, has been like, I think I've read 4 of them, so I reserve the right to change my mind on one of my favorite parts. But for each of the countries, he does this little like summary right at the beginning where it's got like, the population, what the capital was, some other information. My favorite 2 are the cause of death. So for example, I'm open here to Bavaria. Cause of death, bad genes, and Bismarck. And by Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck.
Otto von Bismarck.
Yeah. And then there's also this thing that I'm still trying to understand, but I installed the app on my phone, and it's like it's called What 3 Words, and it's a way of identifying like specific 3-meter parts in the world, and like apparently every square 3 meters has a different 3 words assigned to it, and so that's what they use. Which
is really cool. You showed it to me.
Yeah.
And they just assign a random 3 words. So we actually looked at some in our house.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some really funny combinations.
Yeah.
And so it's just 3 random words, word, dot, word, dot, word.
Uh-huh.
And then you type that into those 3 words, and then it like if you know the words in it, then it shows you where on the map. Or if you like know where you want to click, you click it, and then it'll show you those 3 words.
Right.
And then you can use that to get like very precise in where to go without having to punch in, like the longitude, latitude.
Right.
Which is really, really cool.
It is cool, and I'd never heard of it. So it's very interesting. I've been using that app to kind of figure out where these nations have been as I'm reading through. So that's this book.
That's very fun. All right. My next book
is chunky.
Is very mysterious. Don't you feel the mystery?
Ooh.
Feel the mystery, because this book is called Howdunit. Which is funny. It's called Howdunit, a masterclass in crime writing by members of the Detection Club.
I'm very excited.
It's honestly, I'm more fascinated so far. I haven't gotten super far into it. And it's they kind of batch. There's different categories in here. So like it starts with the value of like detective fiction, and then like what your beginnings should be, what kind of people and places and MOs and perspectives and plots, and so there's a little bit on a lot of stuff. But what I find more fascinating right now, at least because I haven't gotten very far in, is first how we bought this book, and then why it exists in the first place.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So we were in Schruler Books, which is a really fun Michigan bookstore.
Yes.
It's really awesome. And we go in, and I was cruising around, and I was like, man, I remember when we read Moriarty. That was so fun. That was a great book.
Oh yeah, who wrote Moriarty?
I do not remember.
We can look it up.
I was not prepared for that. I did not. I was just like, oh yeah, I really liked Moriarty, the book.
I should remember though, because I read like all of his books that I can get my hands on. But it's okay. We can put it in the notes.
Yeah, sorry, sir.
You're amazing.
We can't even apologize. Like we said, sorry, Ramit, for if we messed up your last name. We don't even.
Yeah,
man.
I'm sorry. You are an amazing mystery author. He's not going to listen to it either. So I don't know why I'm apologizing. Yeah.
Anyway, we really liked Moriarty.
Uh-huh.
Had a great time going through it. I was like, wow, this is awesome. I need another book like that. But I don't know. I was like kind of going through, and then Julianne's like, what about look at this book? And I was like, Howdunit? How to write Moriarty is basically what I like saw. Not that I'm ever like going to, but I thought that was really funny. And then I was like, okay, masterclass, okay. I read like the intro where the current president of the Detection Club talks about the Detection Club.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, this is a very interesting organization. I get I think it was about 90-ish people. I don't know exactly, but it's a relatively small number, not huge, but a relatively small number. And apparently it started in 1930. And people like G.K. Chesterton and Agatha Christie have been presidents. I think G.K. Chesterton was like the first president, and Agatha Christie was the third. And they're just kind of president for forever, I guess. And
like the Supreme Court.
Well, people who get inducted into the detection club, whether or not they're president, are in for life.
Okay.
So you're just in, and they're pretty much all British because it's what they do is they get together 3 times a year at the Ritz to eat a really nice dinner and like just talk, and that's pretty much all they do. From what he was saying, and I was like, okay, so. They're like, yeah, it's really great, except we need to fund those dinners somehow.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so we do things like like at the beginning of the detection club, they would write a mystery and it got on air, and then the proceeds of that went to the detection club so they could do their fun club things, which was pretty much just hang out and eat food, I guess.
That sounds fun.
Sounds pretty awesome.
I want to be a part of a club where you just hang out and eat food.
I know. That also has like a lot of really successful people in your field for the last 100 years.
Well, you just get to write mysteries and then go eat.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And some of the people haven't written mysteries in decades. Just like they wrote a couple of successful detective novels and like crime thrillers, whatever, and then they're like, boom, got inducted, and then they're like, cool, we're set. But so this book is he reached out. He's like, okay, we need to fund this party next year. How about we do a 90th anniversary book where we all give a few pages to talk about how to like various aspects of how to write these books that we all love to read and to write. And he was a little bit nervous, and they were all super enthusiastic. And now this book is here, and I bought it so they can go eat at the Ritz, I guess.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yep. And for them.
You paid for like half. You paid for like an eighth of a meal.
Yeah, probably. So anyway, it's cool. The cover is like a little fingerprint of all of the authors' names that like help make up this book, which I think is really, really cool. And then it was edited and kind of the brainchild of Martin Edwards, who is the current president of the Detection Club. So yeah, basically the history of the Detection Club is the most fascinating thing about this book so far. But also there's some good things about the value, like what I've read so far is the value of detective fiction, as seen like throughout several decades, because people keep going, oh, it's valuable. How do we tell people it's valuable? It's getting like a reputation that we don't like. It's awesome. And they said romance novels, there's so many bad romance novels, but only the good ones are dwelled on. And he's like, there's so many great detective novels, but only the bad ones are dwelt on.
I feel like that's true.
At least at that point. I don't know if that's still true, but that was like in the 50s.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really interesting. And he's like, pretty much everybody loves a good detective book. There's a reason Agatha Christie sold like 1 billion books.
Yeah.
Because they're awesome and really fun to read. So he's like, yeah, they're pretty much like everybody loves them. So let's share about how awesome they are and the value that they bring. So I'm digging it so far. It is chunky. It's over 500 pages, but it doesn't really look it when you look on the outside. But it's really fun to hold. Yeah.
Cool.
What's your next book? You got one more, right?
Holier Than Thou by Jackie Hill Perry. How God's Holiness Helps Us Trust Him is the subtitle here. And I think I'm on chapter 4. And just one of the things I love about Jackie Hill Perry's books in general, and she doesn't have a ton of books, but she's a spoken word poet as well as like a writer and all the other things she does. And you can tell, like when you read, this is not poetry. This is like, it's not a Bible study either, but it's closest to like a Bible study or devotional or whatever. It's like she's exploring God's holiness. But the language she uses is so vivid. Like she uses a lot of imagery, a lot of interesting, parallels and examples. And so like you can tell she's a poet by reading this, which just makes it come to life in like more than one aspect, I feel like. So that's pretty cool. The content is also amazing. So far, I mean, I'm not like super far in, but one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is she makes an argument in one of the early chapters, I think it was like the first or second chapter, about how we know God is good because he is holy. Because if he's not holy, then he can't be good.
Mm.
And I had never really thought about it in those terms, but like watching her like break it down and, talk about scripture and what it means to be holy and all of those things and what, what it means to be not holy.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, we're not holy. We are changeable. We are influenceable. God is holy. And so therefore he is good and he will always be good because he is not, able to be influenced or changed by the world. He is set apart from it, kind of. So I think that's the gist of it. You should definitely read the book if that's interesting because she explains it way better. But yeah, and I do have to give a little disclaimer that I'm not sure I actually read this book this week. I've definitely thought about reading it. And I don't know if I did or not, or if it's been like a couple weeks. So, but I saw that you had 4 books and I was like, I can do this one.
Nice.
So.
Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. That is really funny. All right, my last book that I read this week is The Coaching Habit. Say Less, Ask More, and Change the Way You Lead Forever by Michael Bungay Stanier. And it is...
wow. I thought I had a difficult name.
Yeah, there's a whole story. I first heard about him on the podcast, and then I don't remember if he talked about how he got it, like the name, marriage, and he's like all the names. So anyway, really good. He's got some other books that are also really good, but this one, it says over 1 million copies sold. I've heard a lot of people talk about this book, and I can see why. It's a really quick read. Like you're not like, oh man, that is such a hard concept to grasp. He makes it super, super easy. I'm already almost halfway through, about a third of the way through, a little more. And there's 7. The basis of the book is there's 7 questions to ask to help people, to coach people, and it's a coaching habit. So he starts with, hey, here's what just a little brief overview of here's what habits are, and here's how you change them, and so let's change them. And then at the end of every chapter, he has a prompt where he says, this is the habit that I currently have, and it's like whatever the trigger is for that negative habit that you don't want to do, specifically in a coaching situation.
Makes sense.
And by coaching, it's basically just like you're talking to somebody, specifically like an employee. I don't currently have any employees or like direct reports or anything, so but I can like picture back to times that I did, and like think about what's good and what's important. And also a lot of it is really applicable for like just day-to-day interactions. So like if you're like, oh, Andrew, there's this problem and I'm just really frustrated with it. He's basically like, shut up, ask questions. Because that's what's gonna not only help other people feel better, but also like get them the outcome that they want.
Yeah.
Because they like they are very smart and capable. So just like help them to see that. So I thought that was pretty good. So far there are 7 questions. I made it through 3 so far. And I heard him talk about the first 2 on a podcast, and the first 2 are there's like the introduction question, which is what's on your mind, and he says it's really open, really good to ask that because it gives them the ability to anything that's stressing them out, anything that's on their mind, like weighing on them, they can just say it, which is really cool. And then once they've said that, then you have the awe question. He's like, it's the single greatest question in all of coaching. It's the awe question, and it's and what else? Yeah. So AWE, awe.
Aw.
Aw. So there you go. That's the awe question. And what else? So when they say, oh man, I'm like, this thing is really bugging me. Like I'm a little bit worried about this product that we're launching. And what else? Oh, and I'm a little bit worried that I didn't handle this interaction well. Oh, and what else? And I'm really, and then once they're like, I don't think there's anything else, you're like, yes. He says to try to get there.
That's so fun.
And then you move into focus. So this is the last question that I'm on so far, and it's, what's the challenge here for you? And he doesn't say like just what's the challenge or what's the challenge here. He's like, what's the challenge here for you? It's like, what about it is kind of like bugging you, so it's a really focusing in on what they need rather than like being all vague and like, oh, well, I think the challenge here is that the company is... No, what's the challenge here for you?
Yeah.
And so that's really good. That I was like, oh, man. Because I had heard the first 2 questions before, and I've been, like, trying them, and I feel like I've been falling flat. Mm-hmm. And so he says, like, what's the challenge here for you? But I'm like, oh, that's great.
Yeah, because just understanding the problem isn't necessarily enough if you don't understand how you have to be part of the solution.
Yep, exactly. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see what the other 4 questions are. There's full pages that are just like a quote, which are really cool because it helps you know what's like really the really important takeaways are. Yeah. But also is really visually appealing, or visually, it gives you some visual variety as you read through the book. It helps make it feel like an even faster read, which is cool.
Right. Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown, there was a similar thing there. Yeah.
That's very cool. Although you liking those atlases, huh? Atlas of the Heart, Atlas of Extinct Countries.
I like maps, so what can I say?
Yeah. And then the last thing I'll say about this is there's, in between those questions, there are masterclasses that will just give you little tips for how to approach situations. It's like, hey, is this a good idea? No, it's not. Or, hey, this thing is a good idea. And so it's just kind of like helping you to not give advice, just little tips surrounding the questions with like the overall concept. And then he's got little tips to break it up in the middle, which is really
awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
That sounds like a good read.
It's a good read. So those are our books that we've been reading this week.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, does that mean it's time for the second segment?
I think that means it's time for the second segment. So that was the first segment. We hope you like it. The second segment, I don't think will be quite as long. We'll see. We never know.
I hope my computer doesn't die.
Oh, is it getting low?
It's okay.
I think you're okay. You got 45%. We are set.
Yeah, let me give a little bit of background while we're
I will
setting
clear the
this
books
up.
so you can use your laptop there.
That's what the books are making. Yes. The sound the books are making. Anyway, sorry. The idea here is I'm obsessed with these TikTok videos where people give like recaps of, usually it's their dating life in slideshow form. And it's a little, Andrew's like a little concerned about it, I think, because he goes on my TikTok then after that, and TikTok is like, oh, you like dating content, and like sends me more dating content, and I don't really like dating content. I just like these women like breaking down their like year or their quarter, like, so it's so funny to me.
I think you just really like that something so like casual. They're making it so sophisticated. And
they're making it so like, yeah. And so that's sort of the vibe I'm going for here is like overachieving but clueless in turn. So if there's a little too much, like if you're, listening to my slideshow and you're like, wow, she put a lot of words on that slide, like, yes. That was what I was going for.
What's the slideshow about?
It's about a book that I finished.
So all these books we're going through right now.
Yes, those are all our like currently reading books.
Little updates.
This is a book that I finished. And it's probably a book that you've heard of. I know you've heard of it, Andrew. I think probably most people have. It sold like 10 million copies or something.
I mean, I've probably heard of any book that you finished just by nature of...
Right, that's true. If I like managed to read a book without you finding out about it, that might be a little bit of a like, what's going on here? Yeah. Anyway, so this book is Atomic Habits. And I'm going to read all of the subtitles.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Tiny changes, remarkable results. An easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones by James Clear. All right, you ready for this?
Man, you've just been so giddy about this. like the starting the podcast as a whole, you've been really happy about, but this slideshow in particular, your excitement level has been off the charts.
I love the slideshows. Okay, I accidentally clicked too many, so I got to do it, and I got to do it loud. Like that's part of what I enjoy about the TikTok.
Oh, you have to like.
Is you go.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's crisp. I don't know if our microphone's picking it up.
Oh, that's picking it up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. How long this book took me to read? Approximately 3 weeks. Was this a reasonable amount of time, considering the length, subject matter, etc.? Mm-hmm. No.
And again, if you're on YouTube, you can see Julianne's expressions in the slideshow itself as she's very
meticulously reading it. My overall emotions while reading. As you can see by this chart, or may not be able to see, depending on how great the picture is, motivated was the was the biggest emotion that I felt.
That's pretty good.
While reading this book. I'm not even sure if that's an emotion. But here we are. It was my biggest emotion. Followed very closely by thoughtful, followed very closely by inspired, and then not followed quite as closely, but there's still a little sliver of there of guilty. Okay. Here is another extra diagram here. Points scored. Hoops. Hoops, helped. Hops. This was put in here by my very helpful husband who was trying to help me figure out how to make the pie chart be exactly what I wanted.
Does it have anything to do with the book?
No.
No, it's just I was trying to figure out settings with her. I made a bonus slide to try to figure stuff out, and she's just like, wow, that's hilarious. Let's keep it.
I left it in. I love hoops, helped, hops. Okay. Back to the book.
Well, those were the first words that I thought of.
Back to the book.
Because I just played basketball. Sorry, keep going.
Back to the book. Number of highlights / underlines. Yes, I did go through and count. 117. Number of notes in the margin. 15 plus 2 very tastefully made hearts.
Wait, you counted... What was the first number? 200 and...
117.
107. You counted all of those?
Yes.
Wow. You're rocking this.
This is why when you tried to talk to me last night while I was making this slideshow, I was like, give me a minute. Because I had to stop at a number that was easy to remember, which was 90.
Nice.
Okay. Number of notes in the margin that consisted solely of the letters LOL. 2. Number of times I made Andrew listen to parts of it. I think once or twice. I definitely inundated him with what I was learning as part of daily conversation, though, so I think that's okay.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Overall enjoyment level. On a scale of I'm falling asleep to total dopamine rush, I would say this book is a sip of serotonin. It was quite satisfying, high quality. I would read it again, and I probably will read it again at some point. Nominations for most sinister thing I highlighted out of context.
Oh.
I think I left one of these off, so I'm going to have to add it, but it's not on the slideshow.
Oh.
The first one. Small habits don't add up. They compound. That was not super creepy out of context.
What is the new context we're putting this in? Like, a mafia boss comes up to you and he's like, hey, small habits don't add up, they compound.
Yeah.
And you're just like looking through your code book for something and like, wow, that sounded really ominous.
I just feel like if you take it out of like the encouraging context of the book, you could feel like, oh man, all my small mistakes are going to compound. At least that's what I found when I read it the first time, and then I was like, wait, that's not what he's saying.
Your mess ups.
Right, when I just was like looking at the underlines. Yeah.
They compound.
Do. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Because like that's like the shadow side of what he was saying, and they're both true.
Yeah, and you went there first, didn't you?
No, I didn't go there first the first time I read it, but then when I looked at the underline, I did.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Okay, so that one needs a little bit of explanation, so that may not be like our number one pick at the end here. But
who's picking?
I don't know. Who's picking. We might pick. Other people might pick.
Audience participation.
Maybe no one picks.
Maybe that's the comment.
Maybe it doesn't matter.
Are there comment sections on podcasts?
Yeah, I mean, you can comment on like a YouTube.
You can comment on a YouTube video.
We could probably
so you'll have to
make sure that there's like comment plugins if we wanted to, but I think YouTube's probably easiest.
We'll see. So if you're watching YouTube, if you're not, go to the YouTube video. We'll get more views that way. Mm-hmm. And then that was selfish. And then
go to the YouTube video, but don't watch it. Just comment. There, that's not selfish.
If any more than 1 second plays, you have failed your mission. And then you can tell us which one of these is the winner.
Yes. Okay. Next one. ... The ending of a behavior. That's all I underlined. ...
It starts with ...
No, it doesn't. I just put that there because like I only underlined like part of a sentence, and I just underlined the ending of a behavior.
Oh yeah, you have to start with ...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's funny. That's good.
The Valley of Disappointment.
Oh, that's it.
That's all I underlined.
Not like that brings you to the Valley of Disappointment. It's just Valley of Disappointment.
Yes.
Wow.
I think the thought was probably like I wanted to be able to remember what it was called later, and so I underlined that. But I did not underline the whole sentence, so then it's kind of no, you're flipping back through and you're like, valley of disappointment.
That is pretty jarring.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to remember what the other one is that I was going to add. I might have to exclude it from the list because I didn't put it on here. Yeah, I think we're going to just have to move on because I don't remember. All right, favorite takeaways.
Ooh.
Honestly, there were a lot,
Mm-hmm.
so that's cool. There are a few takeaways that have been living rent-free in my head.
Oh.
The first is designing your environment for the habits you want to build. One space, one use is a term that he uses. That's another thing I highlighted that was less ominous.
One space, one use?
One space, one use.
So what does that mean?
So that means that you train yourself when you're in a particular part of your house or other environments. For us, it would all basically be our house because we work from home. But when you're at your desk, you're working, that's the one use.
Or filming a podcast, I guess. Oops.
Well,
maybe we'll have to work on that.
Yeah. When you're at your table, you're eating or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying
in bed, you're sleeping.
Right. I've been trying to, when we have a little part of our house that we call the reading nook. I'm trying to be relaxing or reading so that when I sit down there, it's relaxing instead of, I gotta think about all the things I have to do.
Mm.
Things like that. So that's one thing. Another one is habit stacking. So that's basically pairing the habit that you want to have with something you're already doing. And then if you want to go really, really extra, which I do. I mean...
just look at the slideshow.
Yes. Then you also pair it with a reward. So something you're already doing on the front end, the habit you want to have, reward right after.
Mm.
So that's something I've been trying to think about as I'm trying to develop habits. And it's the times that I've been able to successfully do it, it's been pretty good, honestly. I've been trying to do that with my exercise habit that I'm trying to build this year. And so I've been pairing it with okay, dinner's done, we've cleaned up the dishes, which we do pretty much every night.
Mm-hmm.
I go into the living room, I exercise somehow. And then after that, I don't remember what my reward was. I think I'd spend just kind of I get to relax. I get to play a video game or whatever.
Mm.
I was thinking about trying to get you to give me a massage, but that seems more complicated.
We did that for a couple times.
Yeah, maybe
we
we should do that again.
My favorite that we've done so far. So Julianne has really been on talking about this a lot, and so we're trying to figure out some for some of the mostly goals, but I really like watching shows with you, and so Julianne's like, how about ice cream? And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I love ice cream. I was like, I love ice cream too. She's like, what if we eat ice cream, but only when we're watching the show together? Mm-hmm. And so that has been great because I go, hey, don't you want to watch the show? And she's like, and I'm like, but don't you want ice cream? And she's like,
Yep.
So I give this one a big thumbs up.
Okay, yeah. Cool. And then I think the final one is just this concept that he has kind of woven throughout the book is that habits are a vote for the person that you want to be.
Mm.
So, it doesn't really matter if, I'm exercising and I'm like, well, I'm not fit. It's a vote for the fact that I do want to be somebody who takes care of my body.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I heard him say on the Carrie Neal podcast that that's the single biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I did too. I listened to that as well.
Oh, wow, you are.
While I was reading the book, so,
You get all the...
It takes me a few times to, hear the big concepts, apparently.
Yeah, me too.
But then I try to really take them to heart once I do, listen to them and go, oh, yeah, that's important.
Nice.
Okay, what's next? Now that I've read this book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to continue working through what I've learned and the goals I set while reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I read this book at the beginning of the year so that I would, have a prayer of reaching some of my resolutions. Also, I may have to revisit the last chapter, which is on, deliberate practice and kind of taking your habits from one level to another.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably have to revisit that before I revisit the whole book, just because once I get some habits pretty firmly established, I will want to then take them to the next level. And I think that I'll probably need to reread that, because when I read that chapter, I was not quite ready for it. So.
Makes sense.
Okay, that's the end of my slideshow.
Wow, that was way more practical and useful than you led us to believe at the beginning. Because, it was also very funny.
Well, then I might have failed.
Did you not want the information to be useful?
I guess.
But the top takeaway I got though was that it was so much. Like it was just, I guess the slideshow was just too built out. You were too enthusiastic.
Yep.
Was that better?
Yes, that's what I wanted.
Okay. Saved it. I gotta read a book about communication, I guess. That's all we have, right?
Yep.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that went a lot longer than we were expecting, but
yeah,
I had a great time. Did you have a great time?
Yep. And people can listen on 2 times speed. I don't care.
Oh yeah, and they can skip around. We'll probably put timestamps places. So
we'll sound like chipmunks. It'll be great.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That probably was very unpleasant to listen to. I'm sorry. So anyway, thank you for listening and taking this journey with us, and we hope that we will see you or be able to talk to you next week.
Yeah. And if you are interested in any of the books, we'll make sure that we post links to those. And if you like this and want to get extra episodes, be sure to subscribe, whatever. I don't know.
Review all the things.
Yep.
Insert ways to make our podcast bigger here so that more people can listen to the shenanigans, I guess.
Do we want more people listening to the shenanigans?
That's a good question.
But
so maybe don't.
Maybe keep it a secret.
Yeah, maybe don't subscribe and review. Just so it can be a little secret.
Yeah. All right.
All right, thanks guys. See you next week.